Back, moving along, Act 6. This is when I really started to notice that the girls were kind of unfriendly to each other at the beginning. They were very, very serious, very mature, very harsh. And it's a bit of a jarring free feeling because, you're used to a certain type of personality with these girls, and it's such a 180 with PGSM and how they are. I mean, I think the only one really that kept that bubbly attitude was Usagi, of course. Once again, Queen Beryl, serious as a heart attack, going strong with that. Nephrite kind of annoyed me because he looks different because he's really lacking the luscious flowing locks. But I was like, okay, whatever. When they transform into the basketball chicks was really cute. It's all that girl power, hey. One thing that was interesting about this episode is that you get to know more about Mako. And Mako is not being lovesick and seeing every guy and not comparing him to, oh, he looks like my ex, And instead of being lovesick when she speaks about it, she looks more like she's just had deeper realization. She's mature. It's not like the Mako that you think of from OSM. So it is a bit of a different aspect, I have to say. Act 7. I realized that the Crybaby Usagi aspect that was really strong in OSM is really not as strong in PGSM, and frankly, I really appreciated that aspect. Motoki is introduced in Act 7, as well as his and Mamoru's friendship, and I have to say Motoki is a goofball, but it's adorable. But I like that Mamoru has such a goofy friend. I think it kind of balances out his seriousness. So, but seriously, Motoki is straight up kooky, but in the best way. They went to an amusement park in this episode and everybody paired up, and Mako was with Mamo and Usagi was with Motoki, and Rei had hiccups. But it was funny because at one point in there at the amusement park, Usagi had to transform, and Mamo sees her transform. So his words were, "You've got to be kidding me." We also see Sailor V saying how we can't escape destiny, because her role primarily through this version, PGSM, is very much anti-Usagi and Mamoru. She is very much trying everything she can to keep them away because, we find that out later. But it's just it's so weird to see that. It's just, it's like that instinct, no, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Stop it. Are you crazy? By Act 8, I'm realizing that this is a much more realistic portrayal of the bunch of girls and their friendship, because it was kind of weird just because I think of their personalities from OSM, but when you think about it, these girls would not generally be besties right away. So this was a much more realistic view of a friendship, I guess, of a bunch of strangers just meeting. It would take some time to form trust and actually want to be besties. So, after I kind of realized that, I was like, oh yeah, that's a much more realistic tone there. So I can get behind that, And since this episode is also about Rei's father, which is definitely a different element because we never really got to know anything about Rei's father, or really much of him. So it was funny because Rei and Mako were bickering in this episode, which is kind of wild. Their strong personalities were going at it. And, it's just hilarious because you then see them bond over the fact that Mako helps Rei escape hanging out with her dad that she just doesn't like. So they do have their bonding, their bickering, and then their bonding moment. Mako helps Rei out, Oh my god, I just have to say, Usagi's mom in PGSM is an absolute nut. Oh my god, but in the best possible way. Oh, she is hysterical. She's nutty. It's like, oh, that's where Usagi gets it. Like, but seriously, she is a nut, but she's so funny. So funny. It's great. You do see a stronger friendship, though, forming in Act 8, and nothing proved that more than the Sailor V contest when they all were going up to look like, I think, like the mascot for Sailor V or something, like a new, like it's like a unicorn animal, and they all had to like make different costumes, and Usagi really wanted to win, so they all did an act for her. Like they each entered the contest, and it was really cute though, because that really showed that they were becoming really good friends, because who else, you wouldn't do that for someone that you just like didn't really like or didn't want to be friends with or whatever. By Act 9, we're really starting to, the progression of the Senshi, they're really working well together. The progression of Mamo and Usagi's relationship still in infancy, but it is a more believable progression. Honestly, it is. I think in PGSM, it's a lot more believable, I think. Ray is pretty cold, but honestly, and she's honestly a little bit shy almost, but then when you see how her and her father's relationship is, and how he is so just derogatory towards her and her abilities, so after you kind of know that, it makes sense why she is the way she is. On Act 10, I think you really see how Usagi is very influenced by her friends, the Senshi. I do love the story of the Princess on the Moon. The Japanese story was very beautiful. I love that they, how they tell it, and it's just a very beautiful story. Requiem for a Princess song, the song that Zoisite makes on this episode, it was really good. I like that. The emotion and depth, I think, of the news of them being from the moon is real, and I think it's explored better in PGSM, and it's on a real level. So Act 10 is good for just that whole, like, the story and the background and things of that nature. Act 11, I was beginning to really feel like we get so much more character development in PGSM, and I really love that, because I know that's been a complaint by some people that like in the new Sailor Moon Crystal there wasn't a lot of character development, but I tell you what, you get a lot of character development, I think, with PGSM. Minako's manager on this episode is hilarious. He is definitely some comic relief right there, and I knew he was going to turn into a Yoma though. It's really funny because Zoisite and the text moments and the flashback on this episode are really great, and it's really interesting to me because Zoe was never my favorite of the four generals. I think he was like one of the least favorites to me, and now, but with PGSM, I think he's one of my favorites. So again, it's that how it's all portrayed and the different aspects and angles, it really can change how you look at a certain character. So that was a little bit of a shock to me. So Act 12, it's still a shock to me because Mina, I'm so used to, when I think of Mina, I think of like fun and bubbly, and in PGSM she's just so not like that. She's serious and harsh, and it's such a trip, I gotta say, but I do love it. Like, I still love it, but it's just such a 180. And there was this one part in Act 11 that I love because Usagi dresses up like Mina to, distract Mina's fans, so she can get out of, I think, the store or wherever they're at. And I thought that was cute because I thought that kind of played on the whole twin aspect of, everyone always says that, oh, Mina and, Usagi are twins or cousins or whatever. So I thought that was kind of cute that it kind of played on that thought process. And it doesn't matter how many times when they say Venus is the princess, I'm just like, no, that's not right. And of course I know why they say that, but it just irks me like every time. I don't know why. And one of my like hyperventilating moments is when Zoe called Indy the Master Endymion. I was like, oh my god, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the dynamic of the four generals with Endymion or Memoro. And I love that we get so much of that in PGSM. So speaking of the four generals, Act 13, well, first Motoki has this turtle, okay, and he treats it like a baby, and I'm telling you, Motoki is so kooky. But anyway, he loses his turtle, and like Usagi and Moro come to help him look for it, and just like the interaction between Usa and Mamo during this whole thing is it's just great. It's hilarious. It's so adorable. And I have to say though, one thing that really, really irks me is that I really wish like that they had done Kunzite's hair white, because they did not do his hair white, even like when he was in his general form. And I was just like, oh my god, you know, they got Nephrite's hair color right, basically, but they just didn't do the length right, but they didn't do Kunzite's hair white, and that just kind of annoyed me. I was like, oh, I really was kind of looking forward to seeing that. Act 14 is when Usagi turns into a Yoma. And it's just, you know, Mamo to the rescue, and she's kidnapped by Kunzite. And I really liked seeing Mamo be protective of her, not just as Tuxedo Mask, but as himself. And you could really feel, I'm telling you, PGSM has a lot of emotion, at least I felt that way. But you could really see that Mamo was protective of her, not just out of obligation, but out of genuine care. And I really kind of like that. 15 was super adorable to me. Act 15. Oh my god. Okay, so Usagi and her friends at first are like talking to her about the man that swoops in and out of her life, and like right in front of Memoro, right? So hashtag embarrassing. Then Naro sets them up like on a date, okay? And there comes like Minako's like jewels get stolen, and then here comes Usagi. I'll turn into Sailor Moon. And she says it in front of Mamo, not realizing that he's already seen her turn into Sailor Moon. And there was like this moment where she says that, and then they both just kind of awkwardly, oh look, there's a bird. I was like, oh my god, that was such a cartoon moment. It was just all the things he had to do to protect her. You know, she tripped with the jewels at one point, and then it was just so sweet because it was Mamo protecting Usagi as Memoro. So it's always nice. An interesting kind of contrast in this episode was when Memoro fell over the railing, and you see Usagi battle with herself, like, should I go get him or should I go get the guy who's running away with the jewels? And, you know, it was just like one of those really interesting moments, because you're like, I wonder if it was like OSM, would she go? Because she didn't even say, are you okay? Like, it was so weird. But, you know, in this episode, they really work together. And when she's all happy afterwards, and she's smiling, and he's smiling, and it's just like, oh, the feels, man. It was great. But okay, I'm stopping it at 15. I'm going to pick up the next video at 16. So thanks for being here. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Until next time.